Is e-commerce disappearing due to technology innovation? The challenge on SaaS technology companies. Welcome to Breaking Down Barriers, where we hear from the builders and makers in the region. Today we have the current CTO of Zid, a Saudi unicorn, enabling merchants to sell online and modern retail SaaS. The reason you want to tune in today is Facundo has spent 14 years as a CIO, CTO of different companies. He's worked for super high traffic businesses in travel and retail, e-commerce. He's worked in more than 25 countries. I'd love to get into that.
That's correct.
Short term, long term. And with that is China, Brazil, Argentina, UAE, Japan, US, UK, Australia, and Thailand, and so on. He's lived in 8 countries from South America to the Middle East. He's worked for big tech organizations such as Accenture, HBX Group, TUI, Ernst Young, and then he's moved to the startup world. He's an investor in startups as well, and he's led teams of over 100 people with more than 20 nationalities, and the Harvard Alumni. Impressive.
Well, I mean, you presented it quite well, I have to say.
So let's get straight into it. Are SaaS companies for e-commerce dead? What is the added value of them?
Right. Well, good kickoff question. Huh? I don't think SaaS e-commerce platforms are dead. That's the first statement. However, while commerce is becoming more and more, I would say, demanding from end consumers, the needs from the end consumers are also changing radically. The baby boomers are not the same as Gen Z said. The time we wait for delivery is not the same anymore. So when we look into SaaS businesses like ours, like Zed, we need to continuously innovate and try to figure out ways that we will optimize not only the way people sell, but also the way that merchants operate their stores to become more effective in the performance and the way we do it. Now, there's a couple of things that I think resonate very well with the fact that e-commerce is not dead, but might be dead if we continue doing it in the same classic way as we're doing it today. Today, you and I purchase online, and it's like you search, you put into the cart, and you buy, and it gets to your house. I think that will change radically, and then hopefully we'll touch base on that today.
And from like a build or buy then, like what would you choose if you had to open, you have to open a business from 0 to 1 today, and you've had the experience now obviously within e-commerce for a very long period of time. You've now obviously got hopefully a bit of experience with the acceleration of AI, if that's what we're talking about here with the disruption. Yep.
So the way the build or buy in technology, right? That's sometimes a really important question. I recently was with one of the retailers trying to convince them to come to Zed. They're a huge retailer. They're also registered in the stock market in Saudi. And they were saying, no, we will never buy. We're too big for any of the SaaS organizations. And then you look into companies like Adidas, which is hosted by Shopify. Or you look into some of our brands, which are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year on revenue, and then they are in Zed, and they're also public or part of PIF. So when you look into that, I think the concept of buy to start, build to scale is off. That's a fallacy today, and also the amount of money and also effort that you have to put into ensuring your platform is 24/7 is too high, and it's becoming more like a commodity. So SaaS platforms that have multi-merchant and multi-tenant approach are actually quite interested, because why would you, if you're starting a business, decide I'm going to do my own business and my plan is to reach to $10 million a year? Why would you focus and worry about the technology if somebody else can, and at a fraction of the cost that potentially you will be spending? Now, what SaaS companies have to do, and that what Zed is doing, is ensuring that the pace of change is adjusted to the demands from the merchants. And I think that equation is quite important, as if you're not going as fast in the change as your customers are demanding and your end consumers are demanding your customers, then you probably are going to be out of business.
And just touching on something there, you mentioned around keeping the platform at 24/7. Do you have any war stories of that? Some pain points of being able to? You must have, right?
You're not putting me in the spot, right? So we do have a few, and I'm happy to share the story of Zed because I think it's a success story as well. When the platform goes down, everyone it's kind of saying, "Oh, your platform is not reliable." Now,
is it your fault? Is it your fault?
It's our fault. Yeah. And potentially, sometimes we forget, like even WhatsApp went down, right? Like we're talking about WhatsApp, Facebook, like Instagram, they went down. Google went down, right? So no platform is bulletproof of going down and not being 24/7. Of course, we want to reach the 99, 99, 99, which is what I remember the ministry, one of the ministries in Saudi was asking me, okay, but you said 99, 99, but what about 99, 99, 99? Which is very, very hard. We're talking about minutes in a year to be done. Horror story. Let me share. And I remember this was a very horror story. We're having a merchants event. It was 2.5 years ago, and the platform went down for roughly about 45 minutes. The merchants were in it. So you can imagine like what's going on. My business is suffering, etc., etc. The important thing from this is not to panic, in my opinion. You have to ensure that what you do next, it's provide the confidence to your customers and to the end consumers as well again. And what we did is you start putting a lot of monitoring in place. You started putting, using AI now, you can have AI DevOps as well. And that's some of the things that we are investing right now in order to ensure that the platform self-heals. It's probably not going to fix the root cause, but it can continue operating without the fact of being with an outage. Now, outages can happen. People make mistakes. But I think with AI, and if I could jump into the future, maybe I'm jumping into some of your questions, but if I can jump into the future, what I am seeing is that there will be agents that will be able to operate as humans. There are already agents, but they're not as optimized as we think. And there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure that those agents work correctly. But I think the more we utilize the AI and the more we utilize the LLMs, I think the agentic AI will actually play a pivotal role in shifting the way we as CTOs are actually utilizing technology or conceiving technology, which is also a challenge for us. I mean, I'm 45 years old, and I'm still like learning. You can't stop learning in this world.
Mm-hmm. And just on that then, like from the lens of, we sort of take it back to the sort of the startup scale up world, and you've kind of been there and done it, and you've spoke about building and scaling the sort of the right platform and building the right team. What advice would you have to maybe founders then that are at that early part of the journey, now that you've gone through the pain point of early stage and growth?
It's a good question. I think what people need to plan well in advance is not to think they will be a startup. Like, I'm going to do a couple of hundred, thousands of dollars. I think the lessons learned is like, think about globalize. Think about that you're not going to be in one country from day one. Build the platform architecture in a way that it's not just for tomorrow, it is for the future. Some of the biggest mistakes or pain points of organizations is when you actually start building, you say, okay, I'm going to build this for Saudi Arabia, or I'm going to build this for British, or I'm going to build this for Spanish. And then you forget that at some point, your maximum capacity, your market share will be at the peak. And then you want to expand to another country. Applying localization when your platform architecture is not built in that way, it's too complex. And you will need to pretty much rebuild a lot of stuff to ensure that you get there. So first thing, think that you're going to be global, not think that you're going to be local. Second thing, it's ensuring that UX, UI, it's key. I mean, everything gets through your eyes. Even the food gets through your eyes before it gets to your mouth. So come on. So ensure that you have a really good product. It has to be a product. If you're not building a product to sell, but you're building a SaaS startup, ensure that PLG is in your mind, product-led growth, because the product is the one that has to sell itself, has to retain your customers itself, and you shouldn't be leveraging your SLG with your sales-led growth, because otherwise your cost will grow. And I think, again, the new technologies that we're seeing and the way companies are being built today, it's telling me that we're going to start seeing, and I heard this many times, we're going to start seeing companies that are millions of dollars with like a bunch of people.
I think I even heard, I don't know, I might be wrong on this, like you're going to get the first $1 trillion company or evaluate that's going to be of like a 10-person startup or something.
Yeah, I heard it a few podcasts or a few people that were talking about it.
which is crazy.
I think it's happening already. You have companies like Pager, I think it's Pilot Pager or PagerPilot.ai, which has a simple, it fixes one problem. The problem of creating a product page automatically from a landing page to your store, right? Or to your Amazon store. Like if you want, for example, to build your landing page in Amazon, usually you have to go and code it. Nowadays, you put the URL from your store and it generates your Amazon store automatically using AI. That's a specific problem that saves time at a fraction of the cost. And again, the cost of running that is also going lower and lower as we see today.
I spoke to a CTO a few weeks ago, and he was obviously how does it impact our industry, talent and hiring? I was like, there's going to be less of you. You're not going to need to hire as many engineers. But what he was kind of saying is, yeah, but you're going to be paying a premium for the top talent even more now, because you're going to have an engineer that has 5 screens open and all these different agents or whatever coding and doing the work for them. So you're going to get like the 10x in return, but that's going to come at a cost.
I mean, it's difficult to for me. It's difficult to predict what the future is. But if I take my mind on hiring, for example, that you're picking that up, I think we will get at the end of it to just reconfirm what the agents or the avatars had done in the conversations with the candidates. I was telling my family recently, it's going to be very difficult to understand whether this is a fake podcast or this is a real podcast. There are companies out there that are building super high reality human beings and avatars. We built an avatar recently in Zed. I built an avatar myself, by the way, that communicates in Arabic, and I don't speak Arabic. So that's part of the utilization of it. It's not as real, I have to say.
Yeah, we've used a platform, Synthesia. I don't know if you've seen them. We've used their AI avatar as well, and it's great, and it could save you a lot of time in some things, but at the same time, it still comes with its own glitches. And it depends. I think it's like anything. What are you using it for? What's the purpose of it? I think from our industry, you're going to get a lot of salespeople that are going to be using it as outreach. People are going to clock onto that, and it's all about that personal human interaction and deep-rooted relationships, right? But if I look at it from the other side, if I'm representing you, for example, as you're a CTO, and I'm talking to you about a job opportunity, but then I have to have that conversation multiple times in the sense of like, what does the business do? All the typical questions that you're going to ask about what is this company doing? How does the role fit in? The mission, purpose, etc. I think that part makes sense because I could send that to you in advance, and then when you and I have a conversation, we can actually get into the real detail about you and the role and the things that you want to know, and you've done all that in advance. I think that it serves the purpose. Yeah,
ultimately, it's great. Yeah. I mean, repeating yourself in talking about the role and the qualities of the role and why the role is important, might fit or might not fit for the candidate. Doing it 20 times, then the meetings will come, instead of being an hour, they will be 20 minutes. Which is saving you a lot of time, and actually, I mean, in your case, you can help more clients to get more people.
Exactly that. Cool. So look, if we just switch it back to maybe the start part as well. Like when you say e-commerce as we know it's disappearing, what specifically do you think is being replaced, and by what?
Look, I've been doing lately. I've been doing some research to understand what's the future of Zed, and why do I believe that e-commerce, the way we see it today, it will disappear. So like people talk about hyper-personalization. I don't know if you remember. We're talking about that for a long time. But what we see today is if you go to any brand, just pick any brand, and you go to their landing page, what you're going to see is going to be a static content. It's not personalized to you. And I think what we're going to start seeing is the hyper-personalization of content, not the hyper-personalization of the product offering. That's one thing. The second thing that I think is going to start happening is that prices will adjust to you, which is a big shift. Dynamic pricing has been there for years. Like the travel industry, the airline industry, they already do dynamic pricing, and very well. But we haven't seen dynamic pricing to the level that I think we will start seeing it today in retail. Another thing that it is going to be changing for me is how you buy. Today, it's intent to buy. So you want something, you look for it, and you purchase it. I think what's going to start happening today, it's contextual buying, meaning by that you are going to be offered something that maybe you didn't know you wanted, but based on your profile, we know that you want, and you're going to start buying. Buying will change as well in terms of like I put in the cart and I buy and etc. Today you have the smart fridges, for example. Smart fridges have AI cameras in it, and essentially they are connected to, for example, Amazon DoorDash, which is in the US, and they order the product for you and it comes to your house. Delivery is changing. JD.com in China is already doing drone delivery in 20 minutes. So basically up to 25 kilos. 25 kilos. Which is insane. Imagine just a drone flying and delivering it to your doorstep.
25 kilos. Well.
You have self-driving vehicles today, I think in San Francisco I've seen them, that actually deliver to your door, whether it's food or whether it's a good that you purchased. There's so many things that will change. And I think this is coming back to the first question that you made. If we don't adjust the SaaS businesses and that we don't keep this innovation coming and leveraging what the technologies are allowing us to do, I think it's going to be very difficult that you're going to sustain yourself, because the free people companies are going to start fixing some problems, and what I call the modular approach of doing SaaS also will change. You might need a little bit of this application, a little bit of this application, a little bit of this one. And then all of a sudden what you realize is like you're buying 5-6 subscriptions that are good for your business, and then you can pretty much sell.
So do you generally believe like sort of the big tech companies, and I don't mean that by like fan, but like just general technology businesses, 100, 200, 500,000 plus, that's dead? That's going to just die?
No, I think they will adjust. And those, we can't forget about the brand loyalty. Like, some people have brand loyalty. You like any brand. I mean, we're not here to name brands, but you have Adidas, for example, right? And you have a brand loyalty and you like the shoes and etc. So you will still buy from them, and you still buy from other goods as well. What I think it will change, and maybe I'm going too far away, but we're starting seeing robots and etc., is that the moment you see that your shoes are quite old, you're going to receive a message on your phone in the middle of a meeting from your personal house assistant that is telling you, you want me to order, I already did the research of all the products, and your shoes, the same ones, are actually cheaper and on offer on this website today. And you will press the one and then buy it. So instead of you going on a computer and starting to look for something, what you're going to do is you're going to put one and say, yeah, I want to purchase it. And the transaction will be automatic. You will not have to do anything but to wait for someone to tell you what you want to do, which is like kind of a personal assistant, house personal assistant if you want.
I even noticed my consumer behavior actually yesterday. I was like, normally it'd be Google, and I was like, I need to find a new pillow and one that's like highly rated, coolants and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't go on Google for that. I went on one of the GPTs, just naturally, like, and then I was just thinking about after, actually that's like a change in habits, change in behaviors, right? And in the last couple of years as well, and you'll see more of that, like what you said. And I think you touched on it there, but like, how are buyer expectations and behaviors changing in the region then in responses to innovation like AI, the personalisation that you mentioned, and also the headless commerce?
I think the region is quite fragmented as well. Like, it's not the same UAE that Saudi, that Kuwait. I think buyers' approach is different. Thinking about it, I think the buyers' expectations will keep increasing. I mean, you want something, and when you see the delivery being 5 days, you will say like, I'm not interested. I think the region, it's I wouldn't say behind, but I think the region is moving forward at a pace that we haven't seen in other countries, considering the amount of years that the country has. And I think they're adapting pretty well to that change. Like even in Saudi, you're starting to see things that are like pretty much incredible. Like you have there's a coffee store that now uses robot to deliver to your table.
Really?
Yeah. So I think buyers.
Like Japan's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, they have had it for a while. But when you look into that thing, for example, I think buyers' expectations are going to start being triggered by price comparison is going to go up, in my opinion, because technology is leveraging the ability to look for the same product. Even in ChatGPT, they're searching the web, and then you basically get the product, as you said. I think the buyers are going to look for products of quality, and I think now that and products of exclusivity. I see the region being a little bit exclusive in terms of what product can I buy. But one of the things that I truly believe that is going to happen is I don't want to wait. We are in this speed that is telling us, I don't want to wait for something. I need it today. I realized today that I want to buy it. I want it today. And I think if you don't give it to me today, I'm not buying it. And I think that's part of the change that is happening. And this is more on a logistical front, which is part of the change. I was going to say,
does that all then plug into the logistics side as well, and how that all comes together?
And I think that's why like China is quite advanced in that perspective, where they say, I do remember it's 20 minutes delivery. 20 minutes delivery. Like you buy in Shein or in JD.com, is 20 minutes delivery to your house. That the complexity of the logistics, I'm not a logistics guy, so don't
slick.
Ask me.
That's slick.
But what I can imagine is that it's going to be super complicated and super demanding. And again, people are going to keep buying things. People are going to dispose most things as well. And I think that's where like the secondhand market is going to pump up a little bit more, in my opinion.
And if I just sort of circle that all back to like your role, which is a CTO, and how that all ties together and how that fits in and how you need to think about your role, and do you think that's changed as you join a new company and with all of this stuff? 'Cause I'm just thinking in my head, this is mind blowing. So there is a shift, but then as a CTO, where do you start? What do you do?
I think the first thing I would say, you have to be anxious free, because if you start looking into so many things that are going in the market, it's quite complicated. I think one of the challenges that at least I haven't said, I mean, I've been in retail for about 4 years now, but I've been in the travel industry for as long as I can remember, like 15. So the travel industry really helped me to move into the retail and now in SaaS. Our roles have to pivot, and I don't think our roles are purely technical or purely strategic or purely product. I think the CTO role is becoming more of a role that has to be connected and has to understand not only the technology, and I'm not talking about building the technology, but how to strategize an AI native architecture, how to integrate data, how to structure data for the future. I think we're going to become the futuristics of what we should do to ensure that we are adapted to what's coming. If we don't do that, I think we're not doing our jobs right. And that requires a lot of research, a lot of understanding, but also a lot of configuration of how the team needs to be structured, what skills, how to upskill them. Because ultimately, you can't replace people, but you also want to give opportunities to people. And you also want to train your people. And that's part of what I think we should start doing more and more, whether it's through a podcast or whether it's through an online training or whether it's through time given for self-training. I think our roles will become more of leaders that drive the path and the direction of what we need to build and build it sustainable. That's number one. Number two, we need to build based on a cost efficiency, because ultimately a business is made to make money. Unless you're an NGO. But in this traction of making money, you can basically build a company and pour a lot of money. But the question is, could have I done it with half or 20% of what I invested? And that's I think what we need to be ahead of, which means being very well connected to how sales operate, how product operates, how finance operates, how our logistics operate, how every single department in the organization. And I think one of the things that we usually look into is how do CTOs look into how do I improve my product for my customers? But let's not forget about our internal client as well. Like we have finance that we can optimize substantially with all the agents that are coming in. We have sales that we can optimize for leads and conversion. We talk avatars. Why not having a conversation on a Zoom that is not the person and introducing Zid so that the person has the interaction and Zid, and then the salesperson comes in. So there's a lot of improvements and things that we can do, not only from a product perspective in retail, but also from an internal house perspective.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen in particular, because of all of this that's going on, has there been a real key area where you've seen the biggest uplift in terms of adopting AI? Because I think a lot of companies and people have been put under pressure too, without any real intent or purpose of like is that customer impact, is that impact on ROI or whatever it might be in terms of that value?
Look, I don't know. I talk to a few of my colleagues, and sometimes I try to figure out what is the thing that I am doing wrong that I could fix. Let's be fully transparent. Like, AI, everyone talks about AI because of what happened with ChatGPT. But AI is so much more than ChatGPT. And when you look into the technical side, there's a lot of things that at times I'm not comprehending. I'm just going to be fully honest. Whoever says that understands everything, I will be cautious about that. But in my case, at least, the things that I am doing are essentially looking into how AI is penetrating and what are the use cases that you can apply. But how can I connect multiple use cases to a use case that I need? And how can we utilize the technology to make our throughput and our pipeline faster? On top of that, one of the things that I am doing now precisely is looking at our architecture of the platform. Like, we are modular monolithic with some microservices all across. And one of the things that I started to realize is, and the questions that I put into my mind is this the architecture of the future? Or am I doing the wrong thing and continuing with this model of microservices or etc.? Which I think we are. I think the change, we are and we are not. Let's be fair. The change that will happen is that we plug AI not as a feature. We plug AI as part of the model that we already engraved into the company. And this is not a change that is just for the technology team to do. It's a change for the company to do. And recently I heard our president in Argentina that said it's like the Industrial Revolution. And I think it is kind of like the Industrial Revolution, the AI revolution, which is the second Industrial Revolution. And I think there will be shifts. And whoever is not jumping in right now, whether it's using it like this or really understanding the magnitude of this, I think it's going to be quite in the past and it's going to take longer to get there. Things that we are doing, it's how do we utilize new technologies, not just AI, but LLMs and MCPs into the applicability of our company in all the areas. And that is the biggest challenge, because in the Industrial Revolution, we don't have time to run our business sometimes. And now we need to think about what's going to come. So it's like the congruence model. I don't know if you heard about this model, but it's the model of how do I exploit and how do I explore at the same time, which means how do I innovate while I run my business at the same time. And that congruence model nowadays is one of the most important. We've seen companies like Kodak reinventing themselves. We've seen Spotify killing some other competitors. Blockbuster, if you remember, I'm old enough to remember Blockbuster, but it's not anymore there. So I think similar things are going to happen. The difference is that we have to be faster, because the competition and the ability to create code with no code, it's so good and it's improving so radically that I think if we don't adapt fast, you're going to be in danger.
You're going to be left behind. And when it comes to like the role of social commerce, live shopping, embedded checkout playing a shift as well?
Yeah, it is. Like recently been in China and I was like blown away. They have these buildings that they do for live streaming. So you rent for 30 minutes live streaming. Wow. You have live streaming of products on the streets with a lot of real-time customers are buying from there. Buying is changing. Like, again, as we said, websites are important, but I personally believe that TikTok Shop is doing it now in the US with influencers. The model was shift. Duojin, which is a Chinese company, is also having a massive penetration on avatar selling. JD.com recently did, their founder started to sell products online, which produced in the first, I think it was 20 million views in the first hour. And it produced around $10 million in sales in the first 48 hours.
Wow.
So I think this is what we're going to start seeing more. And you asked me the question before, how do I see people changing their buying habits? I think we will stop at some point. I think Amazon or these marketplaces have to shift, because I don't think we're going to start looking into a marketplace for a product. I think we're going to be basically ask our shopping assistant that is connected with our wallet and our credit cards, and we're going to say, hey, can you find me this and this products? And then interconnected platforms of retail that will find the right product for you. You will get the picture and they will say this is good for you because of this, and it will have a contextual reason why, and then you will basically buy it.
And it will be there in 20 minutes.
It will be there in 20 minutes.
Moving away from the AI part, but like when it comes to emerging technologies as a whole and transforming e-commerce infrastructure, how about like AR then and VR and blockchain or something else?
Blockchain is being utilized. I think we are not using it as it, to be frank and honest. I always think that we should, especially for transactions, like order history, I think is quite important. We are doing a few changes now, and we're thinking about including blockchain into that. But people think about blockchain, they think about cryptocurrencies, like two different use cases. AR, virtual reality. I honestly don't know, because virtual reality has been there for a while now. It's not new. Metaverse has been there and hasn't jumped very fast. So other technologies, I think they tried, but I don't think they're as strong as AI. I think we will still see tools that allows us to buy using less amount of time. Time is the only asset we can buy in life. Right? If I tell you, how much does it cost you, Richie, to buy 10 minutes? You would say, okay, where do you buy 10 minutes of your life?
Yeah.
You can't. So, because you can't buy time.
Bringing me back to that film now with Justin Timberlake.
But if you can't buy time, right, you need to find tools that allow you to save time. And that's what I think is going to happen. And I haven't seen, like, can you imagine, I tried it. Can you imagine putting a couple of goggles or glasses and buying something online? What I think is going to happen, and I've seen it already, and I'm actually buying them, and I'll bring it for you to try them, is these glasses that actually are connected with different agents. And while you're walking or while you're doing something, then you start getting alerts that you can read. I'm not sure how good or bad they are. I bought them already, so I'll tell you how they're good at. But I think what's going to happen is this immersed reality with glasses that you're using at your office. You're getting communications. Instead of looking at your phone, you're looking at there. And I think that might help. And that's part of like a mix between, like completely goggles of virtual reality, etc. Very difficult to say. I think this industrial AI revolution that is coming, it's the one that is the other technologies are leaving apart. I think other technology like blockchain will complement very well because the use case is completely different.
Yeah.
But I don't see how virtual reality will play a big role.
And how about the composable around like commerce and API first architectures and how they're like reshaping the e-commerce product stack as well?
Well, we touched base a little bit on that before when we were talking about this modular stuff. API first means that you can plug and play pretty much anything that you need, and it's a composable architecture, which means that it's like a Lego block. Let me put it in simple words. Right? You want to run your business in a way, and then you need this ERP and you need this other tool that helps you to do consolidation of shipments, and you need this tool that is very good for AI for warehouse management, and you need this AI tool this tool that is very good for retargeting customers, and this one that is for loyalty. This is the key. People will get concerned or worried about the fact that I have to go through a huge dashboard with thousands of features there. So I think the concept of feature will change, and it will not be a feature anymore. It will be a product. And the product doesn't have features, that has modules that are all API first connection. And it will allow you to decide what do I want and what do I not. So I don't have too many things that are bothering my view. There is where SaaS, as As and Zed are thinking forward. Like, how can we connect things so that you can utilize the things that you need? And then again, going back to the dynamic pricing we were talking before, I dynamically price to the price that you can afford, depending on the stage you are and depending on the features you picked. And that's going to be different because today SaaS companies, what they're doing, $20 subscription per month. Why? If I use it 2 times a month, why do I need to pay $20 the same as the guy that is using it 200 times? And I think here is a shift that SaaS companies will have. I even heard recently that you're going to start having SaaS company for clothes.
Oh, really?
I don't know about that.
Interesting. I don't, you touched on it just there, but like when you're talking about the features, but how should product teams and technology teams actually rethink the user journey then across channels, web, app, social, as e-commerce becomes more fragmented?
So as I was saying, we talk very much about SaaS, and I think we're going to start talking about PaaS, product as a platform as a product, which is very different than SaaS, which is software as a service. Now, when I said SaaS before, by the way, I meant a subscription of clothing. Again, I don't know if you're going to use that. We'll be intrigued. So product, platform as a product is what I believe will come. And I think the first word is platform. The last word is product. The connection between engineering and product has to be very strong. Whether I have it under my own, hierarchy reporting line or not, it doesn't matter. We need to collaborate. It's one entity. Like product is creating things, and product can have feedback on the technology and how it's built, and vice versa. And that's super important. I think, again, this shift between what we see today of the research that is done, the analysis, the requirement definition, that I think we're going to jump a lot more using tools like Lovable, Riplet, etc., to prototyping pretty quick, where it's going to allow us to understand and help everyone understand a lot more. And then on the fly, we will be improving that. And it's going to take a fraction of the time that it used to take. Like, I remember 10 years back, we were writing requirements for about 3-4 weeks. Today, I have an idea, and we're going to start using what I call the prompting type, which is the prompting of the prototype. And that will help you move faster in the speed of the creation. And at some point, even Figma now has, like, you throw a design that is static and it creates the design that is dynamic. So I think we're going to move from prototype to coding quite fast. The issue will be API first. How do we connect that composed model that was created into our ecosystem? So the platform as a product will become a place where we can add modules that are API connected without talking about microservices that are connected. So that allows me to then, through AI, understand what you need to run your business and price it without me putting a price.
That's crazy.
Right. It sounds like Back to the Future idea of the 21st century.
When you think of SaaS companies, then when they need to like better prioritize their features, when customer needs are also shifting quickly due to like all the tech innovation, like, how do they do that then? How do they prioritize that? And then when it comes to like architectural and scalability challenges SaaS e-commerce platforms face today?
Prioritization will become key because it's going to be very important to understand what you need to do next. I think one thing it's not going to change is the fact that in our case in Zid, for example, we have X amount of merchants in our platform today that are selling. The way you will prioritize is by a combination of factors. It's not, there's not the Moscow approach or any other approach in the Agile, which I believe Agile that may be for another podcast, but I think Agile is being reinvented as well with AI. You're going to have certain things into mind. One is customer feedback, which now, again, it's going to be a lot faster because you can really understand exactly where the pain points of your customers are. Data is going to be crucial to prioritize. And I think a lot of companies say that they're doing it, but I don't think they're doing it right. Data will become a key factor to prioritize, to really understand the utilization of your feature, the issues with your features, etc. So you need to have real-time feedback with real-time prioritization. And this concept of big releases are going to be for a few companies. Startups like us, or even enterprise, let me call it PAP, product as a or PAP, product as a platform as a product. We will need to adjust on demand with the demand that will come. And if I can't fly, let me fly a little bit. You're a customer. I realize that you have a problem. That automatically generates the incident. You don't need to call anyone. It's already created. That incident or that use case that we see that is not working, it's already connected to a generative AI that understands the problem and then drives an action through agentic AI, and then it gives me the solution, and then I have it already in my pipeline. Today, all of that is done by us. So the prioritization, I think, will be a confirmation of the prioritization based on the needs that we want to do. The thing that I believe is not going to be possible is the things that are unknown. And here is where our roles come in. I think this thing of futuristically view the future and understand how we can connect the pieces and what is coming next and what use cases we can do, what problems are there to fix. I think it's going to come like in a combination of things. Now, teams, and with this I close, teams need to understand that it will be not a synchro meeting for prioritization. It will be a synchro meeting. And it will be a validation, maybe a mechanism of voting very quickly, maybe a mechanism of, retention for customers. Each company will have a different model on how they prioritize the work that is coming. But ultimately, we have to fix problems, and that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm. But it must be quite hard for SaaS companies now to balance that speed of innovation with the long-term platform stability and that changing in an e-commerce world, right? It's a headache.
This is my day today. It is very hard. It is very hard to keep the platform alive. It's very hard to match budget, because let's be realistic. I mean, unless you have huge big pockets and you don't mind, and like then you have to adjust a lot, and it's very hard to keep the lights on 24/7, 99, and also innovate and also drive solutions to whoever customer it is. In SaaS, what I'm seeing is that the pace of creation of the SaaS is quite good. The pace of adoption will be a little bit more difficult because there will be so many options for you to pick from. The way there's no direct answer, Richie. I mean, it's going to be super hard for us to drive the change, drive the cultural change of the people that we need to do, keep the business running 24/7, innovate, strategize, manage our budget, and then figure out how we do the future. I think we need to reinvent ourselves in the way, and CTOs need to start looking also into how do we apply more automation, forget about whether it's AI or another type of tool, into our lives, like answering emails, answering WhatsApps, dealing or helping our teams, which ultimately this is done by humans, right? Like, some things are done by AI, but mostly our biggest assets still are the people. So we need to care for them and we need to do things. I think the combination is going to be quite fun. I don't have a secret formula to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the aim though, right? Is the fact to have that appetite for learning and curiosity and all that kind of stuff. You spoke about marketplaces earlier. So when we think about the Amazon and Shopify, how do they evolve? Like, are they partners? Are they competitors to SaaS platforms now?
We recently integrated with Amazon, and it was a pure success. So obviously, I don't know about integrating, for example, Zid to Shopify, because we do similar things, or Zid to Seller. I'm not saying no to that. I think there might be a collaboration that would be quite important. I don't have the secret formula to that. Now, when we look into marketplaces like Trendyol, like Noon, like Amazon, like Shein, what we do in Zed, and we strongly believe, and we recently launched Amazon last year, and we're working on other integrations. And one of the things that we realize very strongly is we have to simplify the problem of multi-channel to make it omni-channel. Today, if you have a product business and you're selling cups, candles, whatever you're selling, what you're realizing is that there's no a single tool that allow you to seamlessly manage your PMS, your product management system, your order management system, your warehouse management system, your shipping or logistics. And that is a problem. There are tools, again, that can do things, but in today's present, as we talked before, there's no future. There's no connectivity of all of that done. So I think the competition is a competition, but it's not. What it's going to drive is the collaboration and how we make the model work. And we are making it work with Amazon today. We have a beautiful relationship, and I have to say that clearly. I was with them yesterday before flying here. Yeah. And we are looking at ways that we can help merchants to sell more on either direct or indirect. Direct meaning their own platform, or indirect through Amazon. I don't see a risk in that.
Okay. So when you've touched on it throughout anyway, when we move, like starting to think about future industry trends, Amazon Prime Now as well, and Getir and GoPuff, these types of companies, TikTok Shop, as you mentioned as well, the avatars. What else do you think is the sort of the future of this industry and how technology aligns with it? Maybe not just fully centered around AI as well. Because obviously social commerce is becoming more and more trendy, not just in the Middle East, but also worldwide.
Yeah, I think the Middle East is quite behind still. But we are seeing it more and more. This is still influence selling that it's happening. Look, flying so high, it's difficult, but we touch on a lot of small things. I think my view and my opinion is that people want to spend more time with their loved ones. That people want to spend more time into doing things that are not necessarily searching for the best price for a retail product. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a shift in how brand loyalty, it's conceived. We're going to start seeing different shapes in how the people buy. In terms of, for example, as I said, sensors being almost everywhere, cameras helping you to understand when something is broken and you have to be replaced, and you pretty much just doing the action of yes or no. This shift is going to drive a lot of new ways of buying, such as, like, again, DoorDash is already live. Recently, you have the stores where you go in and you don't have to pretty much pay. You pick and you leave, and we're going to start seeing that online as well. Like, we touched briefly about the assistant. I think people talk about, there's one that is called Rufus, which is quite interesting. There's only in the US, but it helps you to find, for generative AI, find the product that you want, and then it gives you the option. It's like a virtual Shopify, virtual shop assistant. I think that will evolve to become a full assistant online. You're going to have voice commerce. You're going to have chat commerce, but not in the sense that we understand it today, which is like a chatbot. It would mean kind of like a conversation and a prompting. We're going to have prompt selling, which I strongly believe in that. That's something that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. And what I do think it's going to have is the phygital, is the mix between physical and digital, which there's a concept called phygital, which is quite interesting. And that means that you will be able to start on your phone, through your shopping assistant, book your tryout if it's a piece of clothes, arrive, try it, and then leave without the product that is shipped to your house. And that's going to be a mix, because I might have a meeting here, I want to try it out, I'll try it out, and I'll leave because I don't want to have the package because I'm going to the next place. So the package gets delivered to your house. So this concept of omnichannel, I think, is what we're going to see more and more in the future.
Exciting. I want to shift focus now.
Where do you want to shift?
So the biggest question I get asked all the time as appointing executives globally, but in particular into the Middle East as a whole, and in particular Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
You've been there for 5 years, if I'm correct.
Hamza Sana.
Yeah. And my phone's always blowing up about it. And should I take a job there? What is it really like? What is it like to be a CTO in Saudi Arabia? What is it like? Like, what is it like for you? What has been some of the learnings, the challenges? What advice would you have if you were talking to a friend that was asking you that question, to ensure that they're successful, but also that they're asking the right questions before they actually jump in? Because I'm seeing more and more, similar to how Dubai was as well.
Yeah.
The UAE as a whole, execs coming in and flying out, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that have worked in maybe established businesses in Europe and US or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. First of all, let me tell you what the reason why I went to Saudi. Maybe that resonates with the starting of the question. I went to Saudi because I saw and I read about the Vision 2030, and I was blown away by the fact that a country, on the Western eye, people say, oh, it's closed, whatever, which is not, by the way. That's a complete fallacy when you land there. I was like that. I was like, oh, this country, oh my God, where am I going? My brother was saying, I'm never going to visit you. And then when I landed, I realized it's completely the opposite. And it's a complete fallacy what people talk about Saudi in general. Now, when I landed, I realized that soon enough, I realized that you have to create your network. And Saudis are very welcoming, absolutely welcoming. They're great people. As a CTO, and when you jump into the business, I started in a business that most people speak English. I was very lucky, to be honest, on the travel industry. That was my first 2 years there. But then I moved to Zed, where most of the Slack is in Arabic. My team mostly speak Arabic. Sometimes in the meetings, they were talking Arabic, and I had to figure out. So either you buy an AI pair of glasses that do self-translation fast, which could be a good way to start. But my first tips are, like, if you're moving, there's different types of people that move to Saudi. You have the people that commute. They live here and then commute, and their families are here. You have the people that decide to move their families. I guess the first, if I could, my humble advice will be figure out by going there with your family, take a holiday in Saudi, and really figure out whether you like Saudi or you don't like Saudi, because this is a personal choice, right? Think about what things do you like doing in your life out of your work environment to understand whether the environment where you're going to be living is a nice environment. I live in the UK. Honestly, the UK is beautiful, but the rain wasn't for me. And then I moved to Mallorca, which much better sunny time. So, but some people love London, right? And they move to London. So first thing I would say is look what you'd like to do there. Second, understand whether, if you're going to commute, be honest to yourself and understand whether you will be able to commute. I was living there here before I moved to Saudi. My decision was I'm going to move to Saudi because I want to really leave the change. Third, if you taking a job as a CTO, as a CPO, as a even CEO, figure out what the company culture is. And there are different levels there's different types of companies. You have the PIF companies, you have the non-PIF companies, you have the more localized companies. Just try to figure out what type of company you're getting into.
Because it's always hard for that, though, until you're actually in it, till you're really, really in it, to really understand what that business and the culture's like, right?
It is and it's not. Like, one of the things that I did, for example, it was a complete unknown. I was living in Dubai, great life. I was working for Accenture. And I really love the company, and then all of a sudden, I guess this call from a travel startup or from a travel consolidated B2B business in Saudi, owned by the Al Rajhi family, which is one of the biggest families in Saudi. And I realized, like, I'm gonna go and see them. I'm gonna spend a week working with them. And I did that. I took a plane. I said, okay, I want to work with you guys. I want to be at the office. I want to really feel and leave 2, 3, 4 days. 2, 3, 4 days is enough for you to realize the type of company you're going to be working for and whether you like the culture of the company or you don't, et cetera, et cetera. So that will be my advice. Take the time. I mean, sometimes we take granted the fact that, because we're coming from the UK or Spain, I know the culture. Companies in Saudi have different cultures. And it's very different from UAE as well. And I can tell that because I work here. So take the time and take this as a transition to something that is not unknown, but you want to make it known. And when you transition, understand very well what your scope of work will be. Because sometimes the concept of CTO can be, the CIO, CTO, CDO. I mean, there's so many DIT. So really understand what the scope of your work is and really figure out whether the scope of work it's an intention without budget, and that would be my advice as well, or is a reality and a direction of the company. That's the other one. And then figure out your package. I mean, the packages vary so much. I'm talking about salary package. Yep. They vary so much. Like, you have different types of companies. I'm not going to talk about whether this one pays more than the other one, but definitely as here, as anywhere in the world, there are companies that pay more for roles than others. Now, Saudi is a very interesting market today because they're looking for really talented people to help train their teams in a way that then Saudis can lead. And that's my personal take. There's a lot of super bright Saudis.
So for the next generation, the ascending talent.
So I think if you look into the numbers, there are 36 million people and around 4 million are expats that are in the corporate world. And we are seeing more and more people coming in. For example, there's a lot of Spanish people, friends of mine, that work in the metro. And it's not that Saudi doesn't have the manpower to do it, right? But they never built a metro before. So you bring these people, it's a genius idea. You bring the people that will help you so that then your teams, your people of your country can actually get the training on the job, and then you hire them as well. There's super bright people in Saudi. I mean, some of the members of my team that are leading teams today are super bright, super young as well. I have a person that is like 26 years old and he's leading a team of like 30 people. So it's not that, there's no one to do the job. My last advice, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to... No, go for your last bit of advice.
My last advice will be, if the package is good for you, if the cost of living, figure out, because believe it or not, also that's the last thing I was going to say, figure out your cost of living.
Yeah.
Because depending on the city you go, you might be close to the airport or you might not be close to the airport. You might have better connections or you might not have better connections, and figure out what can you afford or not. The housing it's improving, but it's not as at least as I see it in Dubai before.
What would you say though is definite facts for people like a CTO in terms of like the cultural differences, the ways of working that's going to set them up for success or failure that you've seen in terms of going to a company and working with a founder or CEO or whatever it might be in comparison to perhaps Europe?
Well, there are many differences. I think you have to be more open for things to take a little bit longer sometimes, because again, things that adapt. Again, depends on the company, right? But maybe I'm generalizing right now. I think you need to adapt to them. I don't think you need to be arrogant or egocentric to say, okay, the company will adapt to me. I think you need to be open arms and try to get, like, pretty much like a leadership, right? You don't impose, you try to change and adapt. Obviously, some people don't change or adapt, but unfortunately, sometimes you need to change the person. But I think they need to, again, adaptation is key. Learning the language, I think, the Arabic, not to the full extent. I studied 9 months of Arabic, and it was really helpful for me to connect better on a day-to-day with some people. I can't have a meeting in Arabic.
Yeah.
But definitely I can connect and say some words that for them is quite like connecting with me.
Yeah, of course.
And then have clarity on what's your roadmap and try to articulate what you want to do and explain what you want to do so you get more adopters to your change. If you try to come and impose, like, I work in Spain, most companies is like, we're very confrontational. Like, we shout at each other, but then we hug each other. You can't do that here. So be aware of what the culture is. Read something about the culture of Saudi. Talk to people about what they like or they don't like. In my opinion, in general, what my experience is that direct feedback is too direct. And I was pointed as sometimes aggressive myself, I'm being super honest. I mean, it's going to go public this. but I don't think I'm aggressive, but yet I'm very assertive. Yeah. And I think I had to adjust a lot personally through either coaching as well to really shape the way I was leading, because it wasn't the right way for the culture I was living in. And I decided to live there. No one put me into the spot and say, you have to live here. No, it's a personal decision.
So I just want to finish up on, it might be too big of a question, but hopefully we can get through it as quick as possible. But growth, hiring, scaling, failure, the learning of managing 100+ people team without failing. And then obviously the fact...
I failed. Sometimes.
So let's get to that then. And obviously you've worked in 25 different countries, multicultural, and do you reckon that's probably also given you ahead of a start as joining a business in a different environment, different culture, the fact that you've worked in so many different cultures as well?
Yeah, it helped me and it didn't. Personally, it helped me because I was a little bit more aware, and it didn't because I was very polluted by other cultures and it was harder to figure out what's the right approach that I need to put in place. Again, I had a few problems in some of the companies where people complain about me, and I totally get it. Look, the way I was handling things was completely wrong, and it's not on them; it's on me. I am the one that is landing into this new culture, and I'm the one that has to adapt. It's very annoying to think otherwise. Now, when yes, my team, it's like I was mentioning to you before we started that my team, I have around 80 people. I scaled for about 30 to 80. We were to 100 and something, and then we downsized, and then we realized. In this world of connecting, you have to connect all the different cultures, right? You have to create an environment where people speak. It's hard. Sometimes I want my team to speak more, but I can't get them there. And you have to really listen. Listen, what are the changes that you need to do? Hiring also, you have to really understand the cultural aspect. It can be the best engineer, but if culture is not going to adjust to the multicultural that you have, that person is not going to feel welcomed, or it's going to not feel, accepted, if you want to put it that way. And it's important that we, to summarize, it's important that we really, again, not be on the technology, not be in the strategy, not be in the numbers, and then let the team do, at least the size that we are, but really try to spend more time with everyone. I go to Egypt, for example, where the majority of my team is, and I spend maybe 3, 4, 5 times a year there. I'm planning now a trip to Poland to see 3 people that I have there. I'm also planning to go to Bali to see, again, one of my team members there. And this, we are remote first NZ, and we are flexible. So that allows me to do it as well. But I think that's where being connected to the people is quite important, and it will make the change. And then once you have that, whenever you hire someone, that's going to be contagious.
I agree. And the 2030 vision, does that still excite you? And what you've seen in the last few years in Saudi, do you think when it comes, if we just look at it from a technology perspective and all of the innovation and investment there, do you think it does what it should do?
Huge. Saudi's doing a great job there. The country really understands how to position themselves as a important country in terms of, like, some people are saying that this region, they talk about the region, is the next Silicon Valley. And we have seen that. There's so many investments in startups in Saudi today.
And big funds come into the region.
And big funds. PIF is doing an incredible job. But when you look what PIF is doing from a technology standpoint, I was reading yesterday, there's they're just launched an AI training for 500 people in Saudi Arabia, free of charge for Saudis, which I think is fantastic. That tells you the level of investment the country is doing on new technologies and new people, etc. We were part of, with the university, to teach them how to do retail. And the pace of the amount of things that are happening, I mean, you've been in Saudi. The pace and the amount of things that are happening is incredible, incredible. I have never seen that in any country that I lived or work aside of UAE and Saudi.
Well, that's a nice close. Facundo, thank you for joining Breaking Down Barriers.
Thank you, Richie.